In January 2024, the San Diego Padres baseball team hosted a rodeo, and this happened. This is the latest in a series of shark videos exposing the lies and corruption surrounding the death of this rodeo horse named Waco Kid. Rodeo's fake cowboys claim to give their victims the best of care, but the story of Waco Kid proves this to be a lie. It didn't take a veterinarian to see that Waco Kid was in big trouble. You can see him start seizing before the video abruptly ends. But rodeo veterinarian Tim Eastman was surprisingly brief in his report.
A horse crashed into the arena fence during a non-sanctioned event called the Indigenous Horse Race and became recumbent.
That's it. Not a very impressive narrative for a highly trained medical professional, is it? After the crash, San Diego Rodeo Livestock Welfare Director Jed Pugsley released a statement.
Initial exam performed by the veterinarian team did not reveal any obvious signs of fracture or instability.
From this, a reasonable person would assume x-rays showed the horse did not have any fractures. That's what the rodeo wants you to think. Shark and the Animal Protection and Rescue League filed a lawsuit against the San Diego Rodeo, and so we obtained Tim Eastman's notes in discovery. In April 2025, Eastman was deposed under oath, and things got interesting.
I did look in our PAC server to see if I had any radiographs of the Waco Kid, and I did not. We tried to radiograph his back out there during the event and were unable to do so.
Why were you unable to do so?
His size were limited by just handheld equipment out at the actual event, and there's not enough power to radiograph a 1,000-pound horse's back.
Where were you attempting to do that?
In the livestock ambulance.
What did you actually do in order to attempt to radiograph his back?
My recollection is we kept turning up the technique to see if we could get a diagnostic radiograph, and we were not able to.
What do you mean by the technique?
The power.
So, under oath, Eastman admits that no x-rays were taken at the rodeo. That explains San Diego Rodeo Livestock Welfare Director Jed Pugsley's intentionally vague statement.
Initial exam performed by the veterinarian team did not reveal any obvious signs of fracture or instability.
Right. And if you don't look, you tend not to find. That's what's called lying by omission. And Tim Eastman was just getting warmed up.
Here where it says x-rays of the dorsal spine did not reveal a fracture, is that because you weren't, as you testified earlier, weren't able to actually take any successful x-rays, or why does it say that here?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So you testified earlier that the x-rays were not successful, but in the notes it says x-rays of the dorsal spine did not reveal a fracture. So I'm asking for you to shed some light on that. Is that because the x-rays just weren't successful, that they didn't reveal a fracture?
Yes.
Okay. So your testimony is still the same, that there weren't x-rays that showed there was not a fracture either. Is that correct?
Correct.
So is there any reason you didn't put in the notes that the x-rays weren't successful as opposed to just the x-rays didn't reveal a fracture?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. How convenient. Although you'd think Eastman would remember, since there was significant protests against the rodeo. And the Waco Kid story was written up a lot. And Jed Pugsley's lie by omission said,
Initial exam performed by the veterinarian team did not reveal any obvious signs of fracture or instability.
Following the failure to x-ray the Waco Kid at the rodeo, the doomed, suffering horse was hauled about 25 miles away to the Helen Woodward Animal Hospital in Rancho Santa Fe, California. Here's Eastman talking about that.
It would be standard if you're in an ambulatory setting like I am at Petco Park to refer a horse to a hospital where if more diagnostics or aggressive treatment was needed, it could be provided.
Are you aware of any of those things you just stated being performed on Waco Kid?
No, I'm not sure.
So Waco Kid was gravely injured at the San Diego Rodeo, where Tim Eastman was the veterinarian, and he failed to take x-rays. Then the horse was taken to an animal hospital, and Eastman doesn't know if scans were taken. Wouldn't that be his very first concern? And as we detail in other videos about this incident, the Waco Kid's owner, Lloyd Vigan, is said to have put this gravely injured animal on a trailer and drove him to North Dakota, some 1,800 miles away, in the dead of winter. Eastman stayed quiet when his associate, Jed Pugsley, distributed a lie about Waco Kid. Once the victim was physically out of the rodeo grounds, Eastman basically washed his hands of this suffering, gravely injured animal. Absolutely disgusting. Let's consider other details of Eastman's testimony. He had an x-ray machine lacking the power to x-ray a horse. That's as stupid as carrying a spare tire for a Prius when you're driving a big pickup. It makes no sense whatsoever, especially when rodeo bulls are much bigger than horses, and horses and bulls are most of the animals in rodeo. The supposed animal ambulance, and the ineffective x-ray machine, and the veterinarian who just makes public relations ploys are all designed to cover up extreme cruelty. Welcome to the cruel and corrupt world of rodeo. The next time you hear the fake cowboys talking about their care of their victims, remember the San Diego Rodeo, the San Diego Padres, Waco Kid, and rodeo veterinarian Tim Eastman. The cowboys of rodeo are fakes, but the cruelty of rodeo is all too real. We've posted links for our previous videos about the horrific abuse endured by the Waco Kid and the cruelty and cowardice of the rodeo phonies who have lied and lied because they aren't real cowboys or real men. Shark isn't done with this case. Jed Pugsley still has to be deposed. I expect we'll have quite a time watching old Jed do a dance, and we'll bring you that story. I'm Steve Hindy for Showing Animals Respect and Kindness.
If you care about justice for animals and the people who fight for them, then you won't want to miss the new memoir, Out of Sight, An Undercover Investigator's Fight for Animal Rights and Her Own Survival by the Humane Farming Association's Chief Investigator, Gail Eisnitz. Gail's investigations have exposed violations in the meat industry across the country and were responsible for the first ever funding to enforce the Humane Slaughter Act. Learn more about her powerful journey by reading Out of Sight and use your voice to stand up for the voiceless.